Business English Lesson 7 Small Talk. We do hope you enjoy the lesson. Learning outcomes: to understand what we mean by small talk, to understand how we can start small talk, to distinguish between which topics to talk about during small talk and which topics to avoid, and finally, what to say when you have offended someone. So why do small talk? To get to know the person better, to build a relationship of trust with the person, to put the person at ease. Breaking the ice. This is an idiom. It means when you do or say something to get a conversation going. Quite often there is silence between two people who do not know each other. So breaking the ice is doing or saying something to break the silence. One example is doing small talk, starting a conversation. So what should I say? Find something you have in common and talk about it. Say something about yourself relating to the topic, allowing the other person to respond. So for example, I don't like the rain, and the other person responds, no, neither do I. Ask them a question so the response is not open-ended, so the response is not yes or no. For example, how is the weather back home? The response, oh, it's great, it's actually 40 degrees. Listen always, respond and maintain eye contact. Typical questions asked in order to break the ice. For example, where are you from? How is the weather there? Where did you work before this company? How was your journey here? Did you find it easy to get here? How is your hotel? Have you ever studied abroad? You can't think about a topic. The easy topics are always around the job, hobbies, and family, but be careful not to be too personal when it comes to family. So let's have a look at this dialogue. You say, where are you from? The person responds, Brazil. You then say, which part? Now you're asking a question. This is showing interest. Person responds, Rio de Janeiro. You then respond, oh lovely, I have been there. The person then gets really interested here, is engaged and says, did you like it? You respond, absolutely, I went there last July and I will go again. This shows further interest. So let's say you haven't been to Brazil. You could respond by saying, no, but it's on my list of places to see. This still shows you interest. Then you can ask, so is this the first time you visited England? The person responds, no, I travel to England quite often for business. You then respond, have you always worked as an IT consultant? Then they respond, only for the past 3 years. Before then I worked as a teacher at a secondary school. Then you can respond, so you have a teaching background. This shows interest. The person then responds, yes. What if you want to ask a question but you are unsure? So you're going to ask a question about religion. Then you can say, do you mind if I ask you about your religion? The person may respond by saying, no, I would rather not talk about that subject if you don't mind. And you can then respond, no, I don't mind. What would you like to know about the business? So quickly you're changing the subject. What if you want to ask a question but you're unsure? You can say, do you mind if I ask you about your political views? The person will respond, no, feel free, or no, go ahead. You then say, what are your views on Donald Trump? The person will respond, there are pros and cons, and it will continue the conversation. Now, there will be times when you're going to offend a person, so you need to actually apologise. So what do you say if you know you have offended someone? You can say, sorry if I've offended you. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. I'm afraid I may have caused some offence. Sorry for this. I didn't mean to cause any offence. Sorry. How will you know if you've actually caused offence? Quite often it's the body language. The person's facial expression could change. They could move away from you. They could also directly say to you something like, I don't like what you're talking about. In which case you have to think on your feet and change the subject. Rectify it by apologising so you're back on track. Generally, you should avoid talking about politics, religion, news, cultural differences. This is because people have different opinions and it may create a bad atmosphere. You should also avoid looking at your watch, yawning, because that shows you're disinterested, checking your mobile phone. It's very important that you keep the person engaged. The person has to like you, particularly if it's a client or a customer or a supplier. You want to have a business relationship with them. Do the following. Mention their name during the conversation. Smile. This doesn't cost anything. Maintain eye contact. Let them do the talking. Listen more. Show you're interested. Now let's have a look at this dialogue between Alex and Serbi, and all you need to do is think about words that you can insert in the blank spaces, and we'll go through the answers together. Now let's have a look at the answers together. Alex says, "Do you mind if I ask you about the economic situation in your country?" Serbi responds, "Yes, I do mind as a matter of fact." Alex says, "Sorry, I did not mean to cause you any offence." "No offence taken," says Serbi. "It is a sad situation and I prefer not to talk about it. I hope you understand." Alex responds, "Of course I do. So how was your trip to London?" This brings us to the end of lesson 7, and as always, thank you for tuning in.